How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation, and in today's video we have 3 topics to cover, starting out with something I've been predicting or kind of begging for a long time has finally happened. PS Stars is dead. After that, we're going to talk about new details on an old argument, which is yes, Sony can block games from the next Xbox console. And finally, Helldivers 2 is bringing the fight to Super Earth, so it might be time to dive back in. This video is sponsored by Scry and their Arctic PS5 coolers. If you're a longtime viewer of PSReady, you know exactly who Scry is. I've been working with them for a long time because I love their product. The biggest benefit of using one of Scry's coolers on your PS5 is that it keeps your temperatures optimal no matter how long you're gaming on your console. And if your console's running cooler, it prevents thermal throttling, which means no stutters, frame skips, or any of that weird stuff that happens when your technology gets hot. And with how expensive PS5s are getting, you're not going to want to replace your PS5 if it breaks from overheating, so equipping a cooler will make it last longer. Games are continuing to get more graphically intensive, so having a cooler will give you peace of mind that you're not damaging your hardware just by using it. And no matter which PS5 you have, they have a cooler for you. You've got the Arctic V2 for the regular PS5, you've got the Arctic S for the PS5 Slim, and of course they have an Arctic Pro for the PS5 Pro. And the best part is Scry is hooking up viewers of PSReady. If you click the link down in the description, you'll get special early bird pricing. That'll be cheaper than what you see on their website. Once again, huge shout out to Scry for sponsoring this video. So yeah, let's get into the first news story here, because when I was getting news stories together for this video, I saw this one blown up on Twitter, and I'm not surprised, and honestly, I think it took a little too long, but yeah, PlayStation Stars as we know it is dead. All of your points are going to work until the end of 2026, like November of 2026, but for the most part, it's going to be non-functional after that. They say they're cooking up a new loyalty program that could work, could not work, could never happen, because, you know, this stuff gets put into development and then might not ever see the light of day. But as of now, the loyalty program that Sony has kind of not really given enough attention to is effectively dead. So at the outset, I thought PlayStation Stars was a pretty solid idea. There was a lot of rumors going around that it was going to be NFT based entirely on the fact that you earn trophies that you can put in your trophy case. They have those digital collectibles, so like if you play a certain game, you get a PS4 Pro, you can spin around, it's like a 3D model. They had other ones like the Jim Ryan bobblehead, which I did the campaign for just to get. I thought that was kind of cool once we realized it wasn't an NFT. Those went away forever though, so like that clearly wasn't going to be the plan even if it was at the beginning. But the real meat and potatoes of PS Stars that was awesome is that by buying digital games on the PlayStation Store, which is what the vast majority of people do, you could get points that you could then turn around for money back. You could get $5 gift cards, you could get $10 gift cards, and if you saved up enough points, you could get free games. That's how I got Rise of the Ronin back in the day. So that actual pathway down this loyalty program, or whatever you want to call it, was a good one, and that was the one that worked the least. I'm not even talking about the multiple times it went down for weeks at a time with no word from Sony. It just like never really worked as intended. If you tried to add multiple $5 coupons to your account, it wouldn't work. You'd have to wait at least an hour and then come back and grab another one. Then the weird point discrepancy between getting 2 $5 tokens or 1 $10 token was really weird. Like it was actually cheaper to get 2 $5 tokens instead of 1 $10. Then they took away a lot of the options for these gift cards and only left the $5 one. And going back to what I just said, there were multiple times where it went down for weeks at a time. And again, Sony said nothing about it. So it seemed like something they were just annoyed to have to keep around instead of something they really wanted to put time, energy, and resources into. And that's why I've, since the last time it went down, been advocating for it to go away. And honestly, I don't think it's going to be missed all that much. The main reason for that is that like to actually earn enough points to get the gift cards or the free games, you had to buy a lot of games. Now, as someone who tries a lot of stuff on my PlayStation 5 and can expense games, I buy a lot more games than I would if it was like my money, not my company's money buying these games, right? Like, so I was building up points, I would say at least, at a rate quicker than most people would. The one thing that really sucks for me is that I used that PlayStation Stars credit for in-game skins. Like Diablo 4, it's an online only game. I refuse to spend actual hard-earned cash on skins for a game that has no offline online mode where I can use those skins forever. If Diablo 4 goes away because it doesn't have enough players and they decide to shut it down, all of that money that I spent on skins would be thrown down the toilet. But since I was getting money back that I already spent on the PlayStation Store on other things, I could rationalize it as a sort of bonus purchase on top of what I had already bought on the store. And I had no problem buying some skins for my Rogue in Diablo 4 every time I rolled a new one when a new season would come around. The same thing goes for Call of Duty skins, like the Michael Myers one. That was really cool to get. I didn't want to spend my own money on it. I had enough stars credit, so I got enough credit for the PlayStation Store to buy that skin. There are multiple examples of which I did this, and now I really have no way to do that. So I guess I'm just out on the multiplayer skin buying game forever. The only game that I really feel like gives me a justified reason to buy skins is Hunt Showdown, because, you know, it's just cosmetics and it goes towards the development costs of that game. They also don't do battle passes nearly as frequently as other games. There's only 2 or 3 a year, and they are going to scale that back to make sure they're high quality. I did spend my own money on the Post Malone battle pass because I love Posty and I thought the skin was actually really cool, and he plays the game. He streams it on his Twitch channel between shows on tour, and I felt like that was a good crossover despite some of the Hunt fans who don't listen to music not really jiving with it all that much. Now, like I said at the beginning of the story, they say they are going to work on a new loyalty plan. I don't think that's ever going to come to fruition, because even the best examples of loyalty plans like Microsoft Rewards, I know people love that because of how much free credit they were able to get back, not just for playing games or buying games, but for using search engines like Bing or going to specific websites. They neutered the hell out of that once people started actually using it in the right way. So like once it actually becomes a good thing, that's when you start to see problems like it going down for a month or having rewards taken away or the amount of stuff you need to do be increased to actually get the rewards, because they want to make money at the end of the day. And having a loyalty program for a device like an Xbox or a PlayStation, you know, something people are going to probably use every day regardless of whether or not you convince them with a loyalty program, it's never going to result in them making more money, right? Like I'm sure it's just marginal. I think the reason that they really enacted this plan in the first place was to just track data, like see if they could convince people to play games through marketing or just track people on what games they were playing. Like if they had a quest to play Rise of the Ronin or Stellar Blade, they could check if you had that game already downloaded on your console and you booted it up just to get the points. They'd want to see if you would stick around and keep playing the game. And since they're taking it away, I'm assuming that they saw the data that a lot of people, when they see a quest for 50 coins or whatever, they just boot the game up and don't actually play it. Because like me, someone who plays a lot on my PlayStation 5, that's exactly what I was doing. The only game that would actually hook me if it was in a quest was Gran Turismo 7, because I actively play that game pretty regularly, you know? So yeah, I know some people are going to be mad about this because I do get messages from people on Messenger all the time about stacking M points at Meijer or using Walmart rewards or Target rewards. And like those are still going to be the most effective way to get rewards points for games that you can then turn around and save money on. But like PS Stars was never all that great, and it just got worse as time went on. So I don't think I'm really going to miss it all that much. And I think the vast majority of people who use it aren't really going to miss it all that much either. And they did confirm that you're going to be able to keep your trophies and your little digital collectibles in your app. So those aren't going away. So if you've put in a lot of effort to collect those, you'll be happy to know that they're sticking around and they'll just become more rare. Yeah, that brings me to the next story here. This one's kind of coming up again. I know I talked about it last year, but like long story short, the next gen Xbox is not going to be a traditional console. It's going to use an ARM chip, which is like similar to what's in the iPhone or the new Apple computers, or really the Steam Deck. I know Steam is still x86 with the Steam Deck, but like it's close enough where you can kind of get what I'm saying, where it's going to be a PC, but they're going to build in an emulation layer for old Xbox games, kind of like how the Steam Deck can run Windows games, right? Like it's a Linux PC, but through the layer of Proton, they can run Windows games by creating an individual install for each game. I'm assuming that's exactly what Xbox is going to do. They're going to ship a PC that has a special chip that can use a translation layer to not only run Windows 11 games, but also Xbox Original, Xbox 360, and Xbox One games. But the reason I'm even telling you this in today's video is because of a rumor that came up the last time we talked about this that is now spinning up once again. And one of Microsoft's big focuses for this next gen Xbox is to let it run Steam games. So you could log into your Steam account and then your library on the Xbox or the Xbox app it would use would populate with all of your Steam games, and you'd be able to install and play them on this Xbox. And because Sony's been releasing a lot of games on PC lately, a lot of people are assuming that if Steam is included on the next Xbox, they'll be able to download and play PlayStation games on their Xbox console. And I get why people have hope that this could be reality, because that would be a huge reason that Xbox needs for people to buy hardware, and it would be a huge reason for people who have invested in the Xbox ecosystem for a long time to continue buying Xbox hardware, because, you know, they could rub it in our face that they're getting access to first-party PlayStation games, and there's quote-unquote nothing Sony can really do about it. But I hate to be the bearer of bad news for Xbox fans. Not only do I think Sony is going to try and block PlayStation games on the Xbox, but I think it's going to be very easy, because if you didn't know, I have a Steam Deck channel called Deck Ready, and it's really easy to block games from specific hardware. So on the Steam Deck, games like Grand Theft Auto Online, Battlefield 1, Destiny 2, Apex Legends have all gotten updates that made them not work online, even though they worked for years up until that point. Well, not Destiny. Destiny never worked on the Steam Deck for literally no reason, because Bungie's allergic to money, even though it runs pretty good if you install Windows on the Steam Deck. All they have to do for that is just use a form of anti-cheat that blocks Linux, and obviously that's a little bit different than what I'm talking about, but it's down the same path in the sense that if they wanted to block this Xbox hardware from accessing Sony games, all they have to do is use Valve's data. Valve collects data on all of the hardware that's accessing a game on Steam at any given time. All they have to do is bake a code in to the actual game, like an exe file or something like that, or a specific form of anti-cheat that scans the hardware configuration you have. And if the hardware configuration has the chip that the Xbox is supposedly going to run on, they could just say the game can't launch. Now, there would be a way to hack around that, and I'm sure people are going to do it, but for the mass market, you know, the people are just going to go to the store and potentially buy an Xbox or a PS5 or PS5 Pro. They're not going to go through the effort to run a hack that's going to run on the actual operating system of their PC to get past that wall that would stop them from playing those games. And a lot of people might look at this and say it's petty, but exclusives matter. I know Phil Spencer and everyone at Xbox loves to get on a stage and say exclusives don't matter. They want to have their games playable by more people in more places. But as we've seen for Nintendo and Sony, when you have games that are exclusive to a console, you sell the console. The Switch 2 is going to be huge because they have games like Donkey Kong Bonanza, Mario Kart World, Tears of the Kingdom's HD upgrade, Breath of the Wild's HD upgrade, all the big first-party Nintendo Switch games. While you can emulate them on PCs and the Steam Deck, the fact that they are technically, like legally exclusive to that hardware is what drives people to buy that hardware, despite the fact that, like, comparing it to a Steam Deck, a PS5, a PC, or anything else, you quickly realize that the Switch 2 is inferior in terms of its power. So while it might seem petty, they got to protect that business, man. There's no reason for a big company like Xbox to go through the effort to say, well, we figured out this convoluted way to run Steam games on Xbox, which in turn gave us a way to run PlayStation games on Xbox. PlayStation has the ability to block those games, and in my opinion, they should do whatever they have to block those games. They should say, if you want to play PlayStation games, buy a PlayStation 5 or a PlayStation 5 Pro, and if you want to wait a year, you can build your own PC or go buy a pre-built. But if you buy a hardware piece that has Xbox's logo on it, you're not going to be able to play these games. Sorry, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There will be ways to get around this, like the ROG Ally. They're going to do an Ally 2 that's Xbox flavored, but it's just going to be an ROG Ally running Windows 11 and going to have a dedicated Xbox button. That's something I could see them letting slide because it's third-party hardware. But if it's a reference device that Microsoft is making, I want to see Sony block that hardware. I don't want to, like, I'm sick of these games where people like make it look like, oh, it's tricking Sony. You're not tricking Sony. You're being shady, and it's not really smart because they're just going to block it. So whatever money, time, and energy Microsoft is investing into getting these games to work on the Xbox, it should not be with the goal of making PlayStation games work. It should be with the goal of getting Steam games to work. And even then, I don't understand why they're doing it, because they only get 70% of a Forza Horizon 5 purchase on Steam, but they get 100% of it if you buy it on the Xbox app or play it through Game Pass. So like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I would not buy Xbox hardware to play PC games. I would build my own PC, or at the maximum buy a Steam Deck, really. I mean, like, the Steam Deck's always going to be a better option in this future Microsoft is careening towards. And that brings me to the final news story of today's video, which is Helldivers just got a massive update a couple weeks ago, and it got even bigger. So the last update added in some pretty cool stuff like full weapon customization. I've been wanting this because there are so many guns that would be great in that game if they didn't have a scope. Like, you could use iron sights and now of course you have that capability. But the real meat and potatoes here is that the latest update brings the fight to Super Earth. So not only are you fighting in more urban environments, you're fighting in the center of the galaxy, which the whole point of the game is you're out there in space starting wars with different aliens to like protect Super Earth. So bringing the fight there is thematically really cool. But they've added in another really cool element where there's going to be AI soldiers you can command on the battlefield. So they'll fight independently. They'll fight the Illuminate or whatever they're called on their own, but you can actually take command of them and tell them to fight bigger enemies for you. The update is bringing a lot of people back too. They shared data that like 2 million people play this game every single week, which is insane because it's over a year old, and the content had a little bit of a drought for like most of the last year. So to see them retain this player base even after Sony put their fingers in it and kind of screwed things up by trying to introduce the forced PlayStation Network login and everything else, it's just cool to see Arrowhead continue to succeed with this game. I think it's insane that Sony did not give them whatever amount of money they would have taken to buy this studio. I mean, out of all the live service initiatives that Sony has kind of started and canceled early, this is the one that made it out, and not only made it out, but did extremely well. They didn't have to cancel it after 2 weeks. They didn't have to close the studio. They didn't lose any key talent. This one was the big one. You'd think Sony would just offer them billions and billions of dollars to buy that studio and fund the shit out of Helldivers 3 to make it a true live service game, but they let them go. So Arrowhead's next game is going to be multi-platform at launch because it's fully self-funded by Arrowhead, and I'm happy for them. But with this channel and just as a PlayStation fan, I want to see PlayStation succeed, and it would have been cool to see a live service game that people actually like be put out by Sony first party and not second party, where they're just funding it and keeping exclusivity from Xbox consoles. It is on PC after all, but like, you know, PS5 user base is still pretty big. But regardless, I'm going to jump back in for this update. So if you see me online, feel free to join my game. I am still bitter that they never introduced cross save. That was so whack that they put it in the PlayStation blog post, so I bought it twice. I bought it on day one after reading a post from Arrowhead Games that said, yeah, I would be able to transfer my save, and that feature not only still isn't there, but they're not even working on it. So hopefully it comes at some point because I'd love to play on PlayStation, but in the meantime, you can play with me on crossplay. So if you see me online, join my game. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in this one. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.